it possible for a brand new project with completely different people to exist on a very well-established platform? I don't think so. And I have evidence to back it up. If you're an avid fan of Critical Role, you will notice that recently Critical Role has brought on a brand new production with 3 brand new people, and it's called Midst. What is Midst? Well, it's a fantasy podcast produced by 3 unknown developers who tell you a story with all 3 of them speaking at the same time. Think of it as if you were listening to one story told by 3 different people, and each time one of them chimes in, they add on a little bit more to it and grow and develop the story from there. It's an interesting idea that they've already done before, but now Critical Role has taken the Midst podcast and is uploading their episodes from their brand new season on Critical Role's own YouTube channel. But here's the kicker. Critical Role has nothing to do with the Midst podcast. None of the people from Critical Role are in the podcast, and the podcast has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. The only similarities they have is that they are both fantasy content and both of them produce podcasts. Critical Role, of course, uploads their episodes in podcast form, and Midst exists solely as a podcast itself. However, Critical Role has given them a little bit of an animated background for a couple of the scenes through the podcast on YouTube, but they primarily exist as an audio-only format. Admittedly, it's a cool idea, and it sounds like an interesting thing, and episode 1 is already available on Critical Role's YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But I don't think it'll last for a long while. And in order for me to explain this clearly to you, we need to look at how YouTube works and especially what is changing within YouTube right now. So let's say you're browsing YouTube. You've watched everything in your subscription feed and there's nothing really new from creators you already like to check out. So you go searching for brand new content. And on that search, you discover a brand new video with a very interesting title and thumbnail, so you give it a watch. The presenter is a very friendly looking person, they have an interesting personality, and the information they give you is very cool, and you watch the video throughout its entirety and you give it a thumbs up and leave a fantastic comment. And maybe you go into their channel and start watching more of those videos immediately, or when you see a similar video to that one, you'll go watch it at a later time. And as time progresses more and more and more, it doesn't so much become what the videos are, it becomes more about who the creator is. Because possibly the creator might make a variety of different videos on their channel, but it's always them presenting the videos to you. And you enjoy how they present the videos, so you watch the videos not primarily for the content that's in them, but more so now because of the creator behind them. But suddenly, that creator doesn't show up in the next video. You see the video pop up in your subscription feed, it's got the title, it's got the thumbnail that you know exactly who it's from, you click to watch, but there's a different face behind the camera. It's presented in the same way, it's still the same type of content, but the person presenting it is entirely new, entirely different. You've never seen this person before, and it's a little off-putting. Some of you might watch the video in its entirety, but I believe a lot of you will not, because it's not being presented by the same person you're comfortable with. It's a similar idea for when you were in school or college, or if you still are, where you're given topics every single day by the same teacher, but then some days a substitute comes in. They're giving you the same topics and the same learning structure that you're supposed to be learning, but it's different because the person presenting it is different, and it's not the same, and it's not as enjoyable. Or maybe it is enjoyable because you hate the person that normally presents it, but that's besides the point. But this little thought experiment is why I believe that the Midst podcast is not going to do well on Critical Role's YouTube channel. Because not only are none of the Critical Role members in the Midst podcast, but it's not even about D&D. It's not even a live show. It is a audio podcast, where again, the only similarities is that they are both fantasy, but they're not even the same fantasy. And there are real world examples where this has not worked in the past, and also happening right now. For an example of one that's happening right now, look at this video here. This channel, Senpai Gaming, previously known as Alpha Gaming, is run by a dude named Harris Heller. If you stream on Twitch or even YouTube, you likely know Harris Heller because he also made Stream Beats, the massive library of free, non-copyright music that you can use in your live streams and your videos. He's also made a ton of fantastic content teaching people how to grow their streams, how to edit better videos, and so on and so forth. But this recent video here, while it does have Harris in the thumbnail, he is not the presenter for that video. So on top of the video not being by Harris himself, and also not about a very well-known editing program, how do you think the views are doing? This video, at the time of recording, 20,000 views. In comparison, my channel has 1,200 subscribers, and a recent video I made got 15,000 views. which is amazing, by the way. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Now, some people would say that this video is not performing as well as others for a multitude of different reasons, but I strongly believe it's because of these two. One, it's about DaVinci Resolve, which is not the most popular editing program. And two, it is not presented by Harris Heller. It's presented by somebody brand new. Harris Heller is the driving force behind this channel. He is the face of the channel. His face is even used in this thumbnail, which he is barely in for the video. Now, this is only one example, but I got another one for you. Game theory. If any of you have watched game theory in the past year or so, you maybe remember seeing a couple videos called The Science Of. These videos were not made by Matthew. They were made by another person named Austin. The thumbnails were vaguely similar to regular game theory videos, but the text was always in blue and the game theory videos were always in green. This was, of course, to initially separate game theory videos from the Science Of videos, even though they were still uploaded to the same channel. And while the Science Of still had to do with video games as a whole, they were done in a very different way than regular game theory videos were, due to the fact they were presented by an entirely different person and edited from an entire different team. And it was very clear to see every single time that a Science Of video was uploaded, it got far less views than other game theory videos did. Why? Because it wasn't actually game theory. It wasn't presented by Matthew. Game theory allowed the Science Of to make their videos and be promoted on the game theory channel, but they weren't actually game theory videos. They were the Science Of. And recently, every single The Science Of video has been removed from the game theory channel. And Austin, the primary lead behind The Science Of, was removed from the game theory. But why was The Science Of completely removed from game theory and all of its old videos also removed from game theory and privated? Because not only were The Science Of videos doing very poorly compared to regular game theory videos, but they were also negatively affecting other game theory videos. Because if a brand new user checked out a game theory video and saw it being presented by Matthew and they checked out a bunch more game theory videos with the same presenter and the same editing style throughout all of them, they would subscribe and continue watching because they were comfortable with that content. That's the type of content they want to see. But then suddenly they would stumble across a thumbnail which is vaguely similar to game theory, although the text has been switched to blue, but they would click it nonetheless because it is presented by game theory, a channel they well know. Except suddenly, it's The Science Of from Austin edited in a different way, and viewers were not happy with that. So these videos, in turn, got far less views, and also the retention graph was a complete cliff dive. Because people would click the video expecting game theory, and then when they found out it wasn't game theory, it was just uploaded on the game theory channel, they would immediately leave. And that poor retention would affect the entirety of the game theory channel, because viewers were now no longer being recommended other videos by game theory, because they'd watched a game theory video, not enjoyed it so well, so YouTube decided that they didn't need to see other game theory videos because they didn't enjoy the one they just watched, even though it wasn't technically game theory. And these reasons are why I believe Critical Role uploading the Midst podcast on their own channel, yet having no direct affiliation and no crossover of any kind with it, is not going to go well for Critical Role as a whole. And looking at the dislike counter, it's not a massive amount, but it is a deep substantial compared to regular Critical Role content. And that is why long-term, I don't think having the Midst podcast on Critical Role's own channel is a good idea. I do think it will serve as a great influx of views for Midst as a whole, but long term, I think this will affect Critical Role far more than they believe. I believe a better option would have been for Midst to have their own YouTube channel and for Critical Role to promote it, thus not negatively affecting their own channel and their own extended content. But they did not choose to do that. So we will see how things go. Now, if you're a diehard Critical Role fan, then maybe you'll enjoy this video I made about my predictions for how the fans would react to Campaign 3 of Critical Role.